Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. As you guys know, the New York Knicks' biggest move of the 2023 NBA offseason was going on to sign Donte DiVincenzo, someone that's capable of playing off the ball in the shooting guard position, but also could play some point guard as well. He spent some time with the Milwaukee Bucks and most recently with the Golden State Warriors. The New York Knicks went on to sign him to a 4-year, $46 million contract in free agency, and he came off of a very solid year. Definitely was a pretty solid part of the Golden State Warriors making it to the playoffs. Obviously, they went on to lose in the Western Conference semifinals. They did not make it to the Western Conference finals, getting defeated by the Los Angeles Lakers. But I'm someone that's personally a fan of Donte DiVincenzo's game. He's not going to make some crazy impact when it comes to star potential, but he definitely is going to be a very pivotal glue guy coming off the bench, and he's going to have some very good chemistry with Josh Hart because he played 3 years of collegiate basketball at Villanova, and he also played with Jalen Brunson as well, helping them win a national title. And one of the main reasons he went on to be drafted was his 3rd year in collegiate basketball. He went off in the national title game and he was selected 17th overall, which definitely did help out his draft stock. But he had a very solid year with the Golden State Warriors. He doesn't have some crazy frame, but he has those winning genes coming over from a Jay Wright program of Villanova. He's 6'4", but weighs 203 pounds. He's built like a brick house. Doesn't have a very long wingspan, with a 6'6" wingspan. Started off his career with the Milwaukee Bucks, drafted in 2018, but you could say he's gotten a little bit better and he's matured throughout his years. Again, he's an older player coming out of college, playing 3 years, so there's not this high ceiling, but for a team of the New York Knicks that struggled consistently to shoot the 3-ball in the playoffs, Donte DiVincenzo could probably help out in that department, and I feel like there is a chip on his shoulder, more to prove, especially when it comes to the bright lights. When the Milwaukee Bucks in the 2020-21 season went on to hold up that Larry O'Brien trophy, win the NBA championship, Giannis in a pivotal game in Game 6, elimination game, 50-point game, absolutely off the charts, clutch shots by Chris Middleton, big-time play by Drew Holiday. Donte DiVincenzo was not a part of that run because in the sweep of the first round versus the Miami Heat, he actually went down with a torn ligament and his ankle, only playing a few games in that series, and he actually got over 20 minutes per game in those 3 games, but his shooting splits were not very good. And the first time with the Milwaukee Bucks, very early on in his NBA career, he averaged 16 minutes per game in those first playoff games, so maybe they didn't really trust him when it came to the physicality of the game, reading the game at that point yet, but he had a pretty solid role with the Golden State Warriors this past season as well. So when he shot the 3-ball extremely well in the regular season, shooting it over 37%, we're going to be getting into his stats. It did decline in the Golden State Warriors in the playoffs, dipping down to 34%, shooting under 40% from the field. So there's definitely a chip on his shoulder that he needs to perform better, but he was a big time part of them in the regular season, and maybe just a change of scenery, and maybe he's going to have a brand new confidence being with a Josh Hart, being with a Jalen Brunson, has that dog mentality, not a crazy athlete, but he's definitely going to go at you and compete. That's what I honestly really like about Donte DiVincenzo, and hopefully he could step up a little more in the playoffs, but he wasn't being asked to score the basketball at a very high level with the Golden State Warriors anyway. He was kind of this jack of all trades, Swiss Army knife type of player. Like I said, not crazy physical profile, but he's going to go out there and absolutely compete. So the New York Knicks obviously signed him to this 4-year, $46 million contract. You look at his stats, he played 72 games this past season, so he has shown that he could be reliable coming off of that torn ligament of his ankle a couple years ago. He averaged 26 minutes per game, so he got a good amount of action this past season, averaging 9 points per game, 4.5 rebounds, someone that likes to gravitate towards the basketball and really attack the basketball on the defensive glass. Averaged 3.5 assists per game, underrated playmaker. We're definitely going to be getting into that part of his game. A lot of relocating, 1.3 steals per game, 1.6 turnovers, so he does a pretty solid job taking care of the basketball. 3.3 makes per game from the overall field, attempting 7 shots per game, so he knows his role. He's not just chucking up shots when he's out there for 26 minutes of play, which is definitely going to help out with Josh Hart that knows his role, and Emmanuel Quickley is definitely going to be the star of scoring the basketball in that second unit. You have Hartenstein's grit and grind play. Shot 43% from the field and shot 39.7% from the 3-point line. He does not get to the free throw line a lot. Like I said, he doesn't attempt many shots. He gets to the free throw line 1 time per game, but he shoots it at an over 80% clip, obviously showing his touch and his ability to shoot the basketball. So I literally went went out there, went on High and Low NBA, that you could check out that website. It's not a sponsor at all. You could literally look at every play defensively of this past season for free. Every shot attempt, like every miss, every make, just every like shot. If it's him sizing up into a jumper, coming off of a screen, excellent website. Definitely recommend High and Low NBA. I watched Donte DiVincenzo when it came to this past season, and I honestly like what he brings to the table. Obviously, like I mentioned, he's a 40% three-point shooter, 39% to be specific, and he is a quick trigger. He has a very quick release that he can get it off in a hurry. He has excellent mechanics, and he's not someone that's going to like size you up, have a crazy crossover, and get into a three-point shot. But when it comes to pin downs being set for him, dribble handoffs, relocating, he is very smart when it comes to finding ways to shoot the basketball. Donte DiVincenzo is a quick trigger. He is deep range. Like, he could shoot it from way downtown, and I feel he has excellent feel for the game. Like, he has a very good feel. Sometimes he can jump on his passes. Sometimes his passes can be inaccurate, but I feel like that's for all players. Like I mentioned, he only averages 1 turnover per game this past season, and it comes down to having that short-term memory. If he does commit a turnover, can he put it behind him so he doesn't like have that big time turnover down the stretch in the game? Sometimes he could telegraph the passes as well, but maybe Josh Hart and Donte DiVincenzo could figure that out together to not jump on the passes. But I feel they have very similar games when it comes to basketball IQ wise, and it'll kind of be a smaller lineup, so it's going to be a lot of heart over height mentality and relying on basketball IQ, because Josh Hart, I feel, may be a small ball 4 when it comes to this New York Knicks lineup. But he could obviously shoot the basketball like crazy, and when there's a pin down or a dribble handoff, he has shown that he has a nice little step back in his arsenal, which I like as well. So when it comes to finishing at the basket, there kind of is an inconsistency of finishing at the basket, because he doesn't have a crazy, like, he has a decent first step. He doesn't have crazy explosiveness. If there is a cutback door and there's no one like in the lane, he does have the capability of throwing it down. But when you watch Donte DiVincenzo, he doesn't have any crazy size ups, so he does rely on basketball IQ and patience, which I really respect about Donte DiVincenzo. There's some plays he's just patient outside on the perimeter because he's such a lethal shooter. He has shown that even if screens are being set for him, he can get into a pull-up mid-range as well at times, even though his first instinct is to shoot the 3-ball, but he does have the capability of shooting the mid-range. But one play, he's very patient. He's kind of probing around. He does a half spin, kind of faking into a mid-range, and then he blows by the defender, and he's able to use the rim and backboard for protection and lay it up on the other end. He has very good touch on his finishes, which I respect about his game. And yeah, if he wants to continue to grow as a finisher, it has to be purely off of the touch. Continue to finish in that department of using touch and finesse. That's kind of how he is. Use the rim and backboard for protection, because he's not a crazy vertical athlete. Sometimes he can get bottled up at the rim, but he could also bottle up people defensively as well. But because, again, he's not the biggest guy in the world, he can get bottled up, or because he likes to play very physical. He's a strong dude despite not being, well, 6'4" is like a good height, but for like a shooting guard like tweener, it's kind of an interesting height there for his position, because he plays a little more off the ball. Sometimes he can force himself into these awkward shots, so that's definitely not his strong suit. It's definitely the 3-ball. It's definitely the mid-range when he's capable of getting there, but I do like that he has a step back, because it brings a little unpredictability to the offense. So I'm expecting us to make more threes per game, especially with Donte DiVincenzo. But what I love is his playmaking. I think it's extremely underrated. Like I mentioned, he averaged 3.5 assists per game. I don't know if that's going to go up, because Emmanuel Quickley is definitely going to be the lead ball handler in the second unit. But Donte DiVincenzo even shown, like, obviously at a solid ball handling role, but even if he was like a decoy, he just reads the game so well that there's plays like when Donte DiVincenzo has the basketball, excellent timing, excellent patience. James Wiseman at the beginning of the season, screens being set, just has excellent timing of finding James Wiseman slipping to the basket with that floater. And it reminds me of Isaiah Hartenstein. Isaiah Hartenstein likes utilizing that little floater in the lane as well. Sometimes you want to see him finish with more physicality, but he does a really good job when it comes to the timing of finding the center slipping to the basket, finding him in the right spot at the right time. And he just makes some brilliant plays. Again, I don't know if he's going to be capable of making some plays in this system compared to Thibodeau's system, compared to Steve Kerr's, But one play I love is that he's in the interior. He has the ball in the interior. He gives it up to Kevon Looney. And then because he's such a threat from the outside, he goes on to relocate outside on the three-point line, get the defense to collapse. He gets the ball back from Kevon Looney after giving it up to him, penetrates, gets the defense to collapse, and then dumps it inside to a Kevon Looney for an easy bucket. He has a good basketball IQ, give and go situations. He's definitely going to thrive there. And Hartenstein's an underrated passer. Let's not forget about that. When he did have the capability of showing his passing ability, you saw the offense sometimes become unpredictable. So I think they could thrive together in a two-man game or give and go situations with Donte DiVincenzo and Isaiah Hartenstein. But yeah, finding guys slipping, just recognizing his teammates cutting to the basket. Josh Hart's a great cutter. Donte DiVincenzo's even a good cutter on his own. He does a good job moving without the basketball and slipping to the basket because he's this threat from the outside. He can get the defense to bite, thinking he's gonna relocate or pop outside of the perimeter, but really he's cutting to the basket. So he has solid straight line speed. He's not a very big time wiggle player, but he's a very solid passer of the basketball. He's someone that's a threat of shooting the three ball from the corner, from the left wing, top of the key, from way downtown. So he brings that big time threat ability. So Josh Hart probably, he doesn't have to take as many threes. Obviously, he thrived in the regular season shooting the three ball, but quickly, hopefully, is another efficient three-point shooting year. And then you have Donte DiVincenzo. I'm not expecting Hartenstein to shoot threes, but I think we're going to have a better three-point shooting team, especially when it comes to the second unit. So when I look at Donte DiVincenzo in that department, I really like his patience, utilizing half spins and little hesitations that I feel like kind of get overlooked, and he has a little bit of a swagger to his game. Defensively is interesting. You look at Donte DiVincenzo, he's a hard-nosed defender. He's strong. He is physical with you. He does a really good job shutting offensive players off its body, but sometimes he can get beat when there's players shiftier and have more wiggle and have that explosive, quick first step. And there's going to be times that I'm really scared of in the second unit. Josh Hart's a good defender, reads the passing lanes, clogs the lanes. Donte DiVincenzo is very solid in that department. I do think Josh Hart is better. So I would say Donte DiVincenzo is more of a light Josh Hart on the defense side of the basketball, that he's a little worse. And Josh Hart's a good defender. But because they're the same height, Josh Hart and Donte DiVincenzo, there's going to be times they still get hunted on matchups. I was watching this game versus Cleveland. When I was watching the film, Kevin Love, they just looked to hunt Kevin Love offensively in the post up against Donte DiVincenzo a lot. But he does a good job clogging the lanes. He does a really good job collapsing outside on the perimeter and contesting a lot of shots. He's going to play with a lot of heart, but when it comes to wingspan-wise, because he doesn't have a long wingspan, 6'6", sometimes I feel like he doesn't alter shots like you wish you would want him to. But I feel it's going to be exciting because he played with Jalen Brunson, because he played with Josh Hart, to get that chemistry back. And he's this hard-nosed player that I feel Tom Thibodeau is looking for in the offense and on the defense side of the basketball. And he gravitates towards the ball, rebounding the ball. He's not going to get to the free throw line a lot. Sometimes, he does a good job drawing contact, but you're not going to get the call if sometimes you're throwing up wild shots, and he can sometimes put up some wild shots around the basket. He doesn't have this crazy versatile offensive game. It's mostly going to be, in this offense, probably going to be pinned down set for him, dribble handoffs, relocating, cutting to the basket, because I don't want to hear there's no cutting at all, because we've seen Josh Hart cut to the basket. And Donte DiVincenzo is a very unselfish passer in transition, that he may say, oh, this is a quality shot for me, but I kind of know that I'm not a crazy finisher, so I'm going to make the extra pass and find a Kevon Looney or James Wiseman earlier in the season, or even when there's a Kuminga out there, Draymond Green, etc., whoever the personnel is out there on the floor for the Golden State Warriors and certain rotations. So he's a very unselfish player in transition. He's a gamer. He's a competitor. That's one of the main reasons he got drafted, because he has that edge. But it really comes down to, he has shown it in the regular season this past season. We gave him 4 years, $46 million. He has to show it in the playoffs. He needs to shoot better than 34% from three. He can't shoot under 40% from the field. And he's going to compete. He's going to play very hard, but he's going to get hunted sometimes defensively. I do like the signing by the New York Knicks. But again, I love guys that can step up on the big stage. He showed that in college. Now it's the next step to show it in the NBA. But I will say this about his ups and downs when it came to the playoffs for Donte DiVincenzo this past season. Yes, his three-point efficiency did dip from 39% in the regular season to 34%, especially in that Lakers series. And there was a big-time inconsistency. But if you look at Donte DiVincenzo, So Donte DiVincenzo definitely did have some ups and downs, but if I give Donte DiVincenzo some credit, it's definitely going to be in Game 6, and some of you guys may be like, what are you talking about? Isn't that the game that the Warriors didn't really show up? They got blown out by the Lakers, Klay Thompson stuck it up. Besides Stephen Curry, besides Kevin Looney crashed on the glass like an absolute beast, Donte DiVincenzo was able to figure some things out in that Game 6. He managed to knock down 4 3-pointers. He had 16 points. He had 4 rebounds. He was one of the only players consistently playing hard defensively. And maybe he would have been in more of a flow if Jordan Poole wasn't taking some bad shots. He was taking some bad shots specifically in that series. You could say in the overall playoffs as well. They weren't able to advance to the Western Conference Finals, but I thought he showed tons of heart, and he did show the capability that maybe he can step up at even a higher level in the playoffs in the future. Can he show it in the NBA? I think he has a chip on his shoulder, and I think that's important for a basketball player. And I feel we have a lot of players that kind of have chips on their shoulders and have a lot to prove. But let me know down below your thoughts on Donte DiVincenzo. What do you think he's going to bring to the table? I just explained to you guys what I think he's going to bring to the table personally. And yeah, he needs to clean up the turnovers. He's going to get hunted on matchups. Maybe sometimes he can have to rein in his shot selection a little bit. Not a consistent finisher at the basket. I'm going to say he goes on average 11 points per game for the New York Knicks, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. I'm going to say he becomes a little more efficient as a finisher because there's a lot of players on this team that rely on finishing. I think Brunson could teach him to be more of a methodical driver and figure out better angles around the basket. I'm going to say he shoots 43% from the field, 38% from 3, but most importantly, hopefully he steps up in the playoffs if we get there. Thank you guys so much for the great amount of support. If you love Knicks content like this, if you love analysis, you love breakdowns, subscribe, put on that post notification bell. Peace out, y'all.